Well guys, it's July. If you're seeing this video, then that means we didn't get a trailer for MultiVersus the very second we transitioned from June to July. Huh, who would've fucking thought that happened? Real talk though, this does mean that the open beta is right around the corner. No matter which way you cut it, we'll be playing MultiVersus in less than 30 days. Tony also confirmed that not only will this open beta essentially act as the game's launch, but we'll also be getting more characters, yes, characters plural, than the Iron Giant in this beta. If you guys know me, you'll know that I can't resist the opportunity to speculate about rosters and characters, so today we're going to do exactly that. Spoiler alert, because I am going to use data mines and leaks to essentially make this an educated guess. I've done a similar video to this, I'll put an annotation up top so you can go check it out, but this is essentially the nosy boy hypothesis on the open beta. Today I've prepped a couple of rosters, not just the one that I usually make. We'll be taking a stab at a couple of scenarios here. These are, if we get 2 characters in addition to the Iron Giant, if we get 3 characters in addition to the Iron Giant, if we get 4 characters in addition to the Iron Giant, and we'll be going over a final wildcard prediction that is my personal pick for what I think is going to happen. Without any more delay, let's get into our first roster. To be honest, this first roster is the safe roster. It's like a campfire on a cold night camping. It may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it's warm and it's cozy. That's because this is the minimum that we'll get. After all, we only need 2 new characters for Tony's use of characters plural to make sense. These 2 characters are LeBron James and Marvin the Martian. Not only are these 2 fully voiced, but LeBron is the only character who comes before the Iron Giant in the files that hasn't been revealed yet. Marvin is the character that comes immediately after our big metal friend. That means these 2 are both right next to the only confirmed new character in the open beta. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, the Space Jam copyright is displayed at the end of the first official trailer. And a Space Jam stage is in the files of the game. It's also extremely fitting for the very first event after MultiVersus launches to be a Space Jam event, since Space Jam 2 is the biggest Warner Bros. Crossover to date. This is the roster that I think is the most likely, but it's also the least fun. But if you believe in this roster, you won't be disappointed because you expected too much, and that's pretty important. That's not to say player first games won't surprise us, however. If there's anything they've shown to be great at, it's giving the fans what they want. So let's take a look at our roster where we get 3 characters instead of just 2. In this situation, I think Gandalf makes a lot of sense. We've known about Gandalf since the initial reveal of the game, and he's one of the few unrevealed characters that we've actually seen. We got to see his portrait thanks to the infamous Hungrybox leak. Not only that, but we've seen his move list too. Gandalf's moves accompanied Taz's moves in a data mine that predates Taz's reveal. Oh yeah, and every single move in that data mine lines up with what Taz had in the closed alpha, practically word for word. There are also 3 whole Lord of the Rings stages in the files, and that's some pretty dang good evidence for our beloved wizard. There is a problem. Gandalf wasn't numbered in the last data mine. Not only that, but he wasn't fully voiced either. I think they may be saving him to release alongside a second Lord of the Rings character so they can do a Lord of the Rings event in the future. While I definitely think we'll be seeing Gandalf, and he's undoubtedly a favorite to get into the open beta, I actually think there's a much more likely 3 character roster. As you may have guessed, that roster is my personal pick, but we'll get to that later. Because I want to talk about the world where Player First Games blesses us with a 4 character roster. In this situation, I can't see any other world than us getting Rick and Morty. Like Space Jam, the Rick and Morty copyright is listed in the game's cinematic trailer. There's also a Get Swifty stage in the files. After Marvin, the next 2 characters are Rick Sanchez and Morty Smith, so even in the files, they're up next. Oh, and Rick's also the other character who we've seen the portrait for in the Hungrybox leak, and he's also the only other character that had their moveset in the files. Rick Sanchez is going to be in MultiVersus, but similar to Gandalf, I think they may be saving Rick. If Gandalf and Rick have been finished for so long, why haven't we seen them? The only answer I can think of they're waiting to reveal them alongside their duo partner. Similar to how I think Gandalf is being saved for a Lord of the Rings event down the line, I also think they may be saving Rick for a Rick and Morty event. The only real difference is that the Rick and Morty event will probably be the very first one after Space Jam. I think it's certainly possible to see these characters in the open beta, but I think it's slightly more likely that they'll drop shortly after, maybe even in August. This brings me to my final prediction. This is a roster that adds 3 characters alongside the Iron Giant, and the reason I'm taking the chance on this wildcard is due to the timing. There's a character in the files for the game that needs to be at least revealed in July, and if they could be playable, they would bring a ton of hype from one of the most popular shows of all time. This character is, of course, Eleven from Stranger Things. Not only was there an early model for the character found in the files, but they've also been mentioned by another character through their voice lines. Which character was this? You know, the only character that's been revealed for the open beta. No big deal. Now this argument could also apply to other characters that haven't been revealed yet, like Gizmo, but Stranger Things Season 4 Part 2, Jesus what a mouthful, releases today, the day I uploaded this video. July started with Stranger Things, and this is a show that takes years between seasons. It would be a huge missed opportunity to launch the game without the star of the biggest show in July, to the point where I would say that it's outright a poor choice from whoever picks the release order for these characters. She's by no means the character that's the most obvious, but I'm locking in 11 as my pick for the open beta. Wait just a minute though. What if we get a 4th character alongside the Iron Giant? That would leave the roster at a nice and even 20 characters for the game's launch. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl launched with 20 characters, and that game had way less development time and a fraction of MultiVersus' budget. Maybe we should just go with the Rick and Morty roster. That would make sense, if only there was another character with a stage in the files who's also fully voiced. Wait, what about Raven from the Teen Titans? Like I alluded to literally 10 seconds ago, there is a Teen Titans Tower stage in the files. Not only that, but most of the characters seem to have a duo partner. The only other DC character in the files that seems anywhere close to being done is the Joker, and I don't think Raven would be saved to release alongside a character she has nothing to do with. DC is the biggest brand that MultiVersus has access to, so I think it's pretty likely we could see another DC character in the open beta. Teen Titans is also a huge franchise for WB. We're talking about a franchise that spawned 2 incredibly popular shows for Cartoon Network. Oh, and going back to who Raven's duo partner could be, why not 11? They seem like they'd get along, and I'd love to see that duo in game. Those characters fit each other very well. Honest to God, the 11 roster was my official prediction, but now I'm kind of talking myself into this, and I think I'm going to go back into Photoshop and make the Raven roster. Also, if we include Raven, every single character that was fully voiced from the original data mine would be included in the open beta, and I think that just makes a ton of sense. I think there's a reason those characters were voiced so far ahead of time, and it's because they're probably some of the first characters we're going to see in the game. But let me know what you guys think. I'm sure there are a bunch of you who think we'll get somebody completely different that I haven't even mentioned. If you enjoy what you watched here today, please go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. It really does help immensely. There's a reason why every single YouTuber begs you to do it. And by the way, speaking of YouTube, I just want to thank you guys sincerely for all the support. The vast majority of my comments are positive. I've broken 4,000 subscribers since starting my MultiVersus content, and just overall the MultiVersus community has been extremely nice to me so far. I mean, even Tony retweeted a couple of my rosters, and that's just mind-boggling. I've never been acknowledged by a game developer before, and I think it's the coolest thing that's happened since I've started YouTube. Thank you guys so much for all the love. It really does just mean the world to me. But with all of that said, this has been Nosy Boy, and I'll smell you guys later.